Welcome to Kids Buzz, a children's book club where you read the book in the spotlight and then submit any questions you have about the book or for the creative to wa@cbca.wa.org.au. We'll put that email into all our links. But as for today, I'm your host, Kirsty Lightfoot. I'm the Vice President of CBCA WA, and today we're exploring A is for Australian Reefs by Frané Lessac. Yes. A is for Australian Reefs was shortlisted for the 2023 Eve Powell Award for the CBCA Book of the Year Award. Woo. And it's the third instalment in your Factful Tour. Today we have Frané Lessac with us. She is an incredible illustrator, author, 50 books to your name. You are wonderful, and we're so lucky to have your time here today. How are you? Welcome.
Oh, I am so excited about today's session because this is a book that I've been in my heart for so many years, and now it's here, and it's got a shortlisting, a shiny sticker. So I'd love to do a deep dive into this book.
What made you decide to deep dive on reefs?
I grew up not too far from the New Jersey shore on the east coast of the United States, and my parents took me down to the shore every summer, and I'd beachcomb and discover things like giant horseshoe crabs that are very prehistoric looking, and once I found a baby sea turtle. So I was always curious about what lived in the ocean. When I finished school, I went to live in California, in Malibu, on the beach, and once again, I was right on the water, and right below my house were rock pools. And I'd find sea anemones and little fish and different kinds of crabs. And one time there was a little baby shark that was trapped in the rock pool. So once again, I mean, it was still the intrigue of what was in that ocean was always there, the curiosity. Then I moved to the Caribbean. Once again, I'm living on a beach, and there's a little reef off the coast of my house. And every day I'd swim out to the reef, and there would be a barracuda that would come with me. It was about four feet long, about a little over a meter long, and I named this barracuda Barry, and every day as I swam out to this little reef, Barry would come with me, back and forth. So I spent a lot of time underwater, and my kitchen, if you've ever been to my house, is a big, about 150-year-old wagon wheel suspended from the ceiling, and I've hung all fish there. So the allure of the sea and the mystery of the sea has always been a curiosity for me.
How did you research the book? Because obviously you've got an interest. So how did that come about? Like, are you chatting to people about it? Are you doing more book historic research? Are you getting in? Like, are you scuba diving? Are you exploring? How did you research the book?
I'm a snorkeler. And we're very lucky living on the west coast of Australia that with a short plane right away, we have Ningaloo Reef, one of the longest fringing reefs in the world. A fringing reef is a reef that's very close to shore. So with a few paddles, you could be out there, just a few swim strokes, and it's a wonderland underwater there. And it's teeming with hundreds of species of fishes and different kinds of turtles and reef sharks. And as I said, it's like right there, and it's so easy to get to. I've also had the opportunity, I'm very lucky to have gone out to the Cocos at Christmas Islands and snorkeled on those reefs and the Great Barrier Reef. So in person, I was underwater a lot, snorkeling. Then it came to the books, ginormous pile of books from the library, anything to do with the ocean and coral reefs in particular. And then it was also getting the facts correct. And some of the unusual creatures that I chose for the book, where there wasn't much information, I had to try to find world experts on them.
Oh.
And maybe that's their field of study. They part like a handfish. There's someone in Tasmania where the little handfish is found, and they're very rare, and she was an expert, and I was able to talk about it with her. Or the Coon's nudibranch. There's a nudibranch expert in Queensland, and they were all so excited to be able to talk about their creatures for me to put in the book. The thing with doing these factual books, like A is for Australian Reefs, the factual tours, is I have to make sure all my information is correct, and I have to have 3 reliable sources. Not allowed to use Wikipedia.
No.
So I have to find like newspaper articles, scholarly journals, maybe scientific papers, or maybe aquariums like Aqua or Sea Life in Sydney. And a great resource for me to help research the book was Nat Geo. And they have lots of films and videos I could look at and documentaries. So all those things combined between snorkeling myself, but then getting all the other information to do the book.
Do you have anyone that backs you up in that research as well? Like, do you get it fact checked, or once you've done those 3 sources, they trust that you've checked it? And
I get checked a lot. I get checked by a person's called a copy editor at a publishing house, and they look at all my facts, and then they have to verify it. And every once in a while, they come back to me. They go, "You better double check that," and then they'll catch some mistakes and stuff, or I could show them stuff that I found. Hey, no, this proves it, but it is a backing up people there,
And that's, it's an interesting dynamic between nonfiction and fiction, and you do both beautifully, but do you feel there's a lot more pressure in nonfiction because you have to get it right? It's not your imagination, it's not that freedom. You're like, no, I want to share this, and this is important, so it has to be right.
It is, and also there's so many smart kids out there, and they'll pick me up on stuff too, that you said that in this book, this is not right, this is not true. So I really have to make sure it's like airtight and everything.
Correct.
But then some facts change too. So just say, there was a fact in For Australian Animals where platypus, they close their eyes, ears, and nose when they swim underwater. But then a few people said, "Hey, but wait a second, we saw some platypus that don't close their eyes underwater." But the majority, we have to go with the majority.
Yeah.
And change it to some or most of this animal does this.
Speaking of letters, I just think it's a beautiful way to explore the reef in a bit of a structure, and you can go into small bits for kids. You can read one at night with younger kids. And I think that's why so many children have loved this book, because it brings in letters that they know. What was your favourite letter?
Visually, probably P for parrotfish. Because the parrotfish is such a wild and wacky, weird fish, because some of the facts behind the parrotfish, this colorful fish, is that at nighttime, it makes a cocoon made out of their own mucus that they sleep in, like a little sleeping bag.
I've seen that in person. It's weird and cool, but gross.
So you're a snorkeler too. We'll have to talk.
I'm a scuba diver, yeah.
A scuba diver, even better yet. And the other one, of course, is how they have 1,000 beak-like teeth that are sort of molded together that they use to crunch on the coral and then later on poop it out as beach sand. Yeah.
That was your visual letter. What was your fact letter? What was your favorite fact?
Well, it will probably be the most challenging one as well.
Yeah.
Because I think if children realize how biodiversity works, more children will help protect our oceans in the future. So it was a vital one to include.
You've obviously snorkeled and seen a lot of things and already been with a lot of things in the ocean. One of the questions was, what would you like to meet in the ocean?
Originally, I thought it'd be a dolphin, but then I thought they're unreliable under the water. You just don't know. They each have their own personality. So my next one that I really, really, really would love to meet in the ocean is manta ray.
Oh, fabulous.
Because, have you seen manta rays underwater? Oh,
yeah.
You have. Oh my God. Because they're highly intelligent. They're probably the biggest brain of any fish in the sea. And they're harmless.
Was there ones, speaking of that though, there's so many letters and there's so many animals. Was it hard to pick what got represented which each letter, and how did you go through that process of this is the letter and this is what I'm going to group into it?
Once again, I was so lucky that I was able to put practically everything I wanted in the book. So like you were mentioning that the manta rays are in, that's the art page. I was able also then to put in the eagle rays.
Yeah.
And some pages were able to have 2 creatures on them, as long as they might appear in the same area on a reef. So we have the parrotfish, but we also have the peacock mantis shrimp on the same page. Yeah. And then for the Z for the zebra seahorses, I was able to put in the pygmy seahorses, which are really cute and pink and little bits of red on them, and they're tiny. And also, I'm trying to think of the letters. Another letter would be the X for the xanthid crabs. I was able to put in the furry coral crab and another coral crab on there. So I was able to put in lots of other creatures also on the F page for fish.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite fact that now has become you share it with people? Or when you were studying, when you were researching, and when you were building the book, did you go out for coffee with people and you were like, by the way, I'm going to tell you all these facts? Like, do you have one that stays with you?
I love telling kids about the whale shark and the teeth on their eyeballs.
See, I didn't know that. Okay.
They have hundreds of little teeth because they don't have eyelids. They have these little tiny teeth that protect them. They're called denticles or something. Denticles. I have to relook at that one. We might have to put it on afterwards. But they're hundreds. And when you think of this most ginormous fish with thousands, hundreds of little teeth on their eyeballs, that was probably one of my favorite facts.
And I mean, obviously we've talked nonfiction and your illustrations. What's that process? Because you do both. You do fiction and nonfiction. So is it easier to write fiction or nonfiction?
I think nonfiction for me, because there's a known parameter. There's known facts already out there, and there's a lot of research and that I could resort to find out everything I need to know already there. With historical fiction, which is also nonfiction, there's a set timeline. These things happen. You find out so much about whether it was a person or an event. So that's easy. So I'm trying to think. I think for me, definitely then, having that research around the nonfiction, for me is but easier. When it comes to doing the pictures...
That was the opposite. I was like, okay, so now with illustration, what one's harder, fiction or non?
Once again, I'm going to have to say nonfiction.
Yeah.
Because once again, with the research, finding the pictures, finding the information is there. But the challenge with the images, though, is to make it visually appealing enough for kids to you want to go back and look at it again and again, and you want to explore more and take, once again, a deeper dive into what's in the picture. I love research.
Yeah.
I love going to the library, getting books out. I love watching documentaries. I love reading other people's news stories online about their experiences with whatever topic I'm doing. So,
what does the shortlist mean to you? Because obviously this book is so important to you, and then it got shortlisted last year. So what was that like, and how did that feel, and what did it mean?
You're creating books, all my colleagues and me, we're creating books to get children's books into children's hands. And then to get a shortlisting means the world. I'm extremely grateful when this happens. Now, I've been making books for a long, long time, and I've had many books out. And since I moved to Australia, there's been quite a few books, and I've luckily had a lot of notable books. But to get that shortlisting is really hard. And I think I've been shortlisted 3 times now. I mean, that might sound a lot, but when you've done so many books, and there's so many beautiful books out there, it's, so I am so grateful and appreciate that happening.
What does the Children's Book Council and the CBCA Book of the Year Awards also mean? Or like, what would you like kids to know? Because it's something that we're starting to talk about more with kids, and we've got the shadow judging process, which is where we're starting to pull questions from.
Vote for me.
Yes, 2024 you're shortlisted. We'll get there. We need to get those votes in for that too. But it's nice. We're giving that ownership back onto kids, and also starting to show them that process, so it's not such mysterious organisation. So what do you want them to know about CBCA and the bits that happen around it?
Well, for me, when I first moved to Australia over 30 years ago, the CBCA invited me to give a talk, and I think it was just 10 people in a room. It didn't matter. For me, these were my people. It was a community, but they've always supported me and my colleagues, my other author and illustrator friends. If we're having a book launch or we're having an event, they are there. They're supporting us, and that means a lot. During Children's Book Week, they help get authors to come to your schools.
So we are funded today by Department of Local Government, Sports and Cultural Industries with Healthway, and we run through their program Fuel to Go and Play, which I love because it's not just talking about, eat healthy, exercise. It's what fuels you, how does that process work, why we eat healthy, why we want movement, not just exercise, but how do we get out and about and do all the things that make us happy and healthy. And so my questions are more around that, because I'd love to know, what's your favorite or go-to like balanced meal?
My go-to or nourishing meal for me is having a meal with family.
Yeah.
So whether it's a Sunday roast with the family, or having a taco night with the family, or going down to Fremantle having fish and chips, and friends to do the same thing. So sort of like the old saying of breaking bread.
Yeah.
For me, having a meal and having conversation, and when my kids are younger, there'd be food fights or whatever, who got the biggest whatever.
Yeah.
It's about the food, the nourishing food, but what makes it nourishing for me
Yeah.
is being there with my loved ones or with my friends, having a meal, sitting down, taking that time, and to me it's very special.
What do you do to move your body? Like, how do you get out and about?
Well, first thing in the morning, real early, it's a dog walk, and hopefully on the beach.
Yeah.
So there again, I'm getting inspired. What's in that big blue ocean out there? I'm thinking what's below that surface. But getting out with the dog is really good. And then I go to Pilates.
And then linking them all together. You obviously are an incredible creative. You have a lot going on. What does your workday look like in terms of also moving and fueling your body? Like, do you have a set thing that you do? Do you stop for a certain break? Like, how does that work?
Okay, so I get up, have a cup of tea, limit myself on social media. I just have, I apologize to all my friends that I don't respond to, because who's ever in my very top feed on Facebook or Instagram, I'll look at that. But after that, I like to play a lot of word games, something good for my brain.
Yep.
So I'm doing like Wordle and connections, and I'm doing Sudoku, and I'm doing, there's another one, Spelling Bee. And I'm doing all these word or number games that I love, and I have to do all those before I can do anything else. And then there's the dog walk.
Yep.
And then down in my studio about 9. Before that, for breakfast, I'll probably have something like healthy, like yogurt and muesli, and some fruit on that. And then I go down to my studio at 9 o'clock, and I try not, my studio is separate from my house, and I try not to leave the studio, because if I do, I don't get back into it for an hour. I get distracted.
There's
so
washing, there's...
Yeah, so I just leave everything in the house, go down to my studio.
Yeah.
But every hour or so, I do get up and try to move around a bit and just try to stretch. And then the great thing about being an author, illustrator, and working from home, I can take breaks when I want to.
Yeah.
So maybe then I'll take a walk down the post office. So maybe a friend said, hey, can you meet me for a coffee or something? Yeah. And then I'm there till about 4 o'clock, and then another dog walk.
Yeah, final 4 questions. And then what's next and what's upcoming? So, final 4. What's your favourite place?
It has to be Montserrat, that little island in the Caribbean where I lived and where I wrote my very first book, My Little Island.
Favourite word?
Ishkabibble.
Ooh.
It's a fake Yiddish word. My grandparents spoke Yiddish. It means, do I care? Or like, no worries. It's Ishkabibble.
Favourite children's book?
Oh, it'd have to be Blueberries for Sal.
Okay.
Robert McCluskey, 1948. I wasn't born way back then, but I had an older brother. I was born in the 50s, so the book was in my house. It's about a little girl named Sal and a small bear cub named Little Bear, and they both go out with their parents blueberry hunting before winter.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of a mix-up.
Yep.
Little Sal follows the bear by accident, the mother bear, and little cub follows Sal's mother. It's a heartwarming story between a parent and a child going off adventuring, and it's always been my favorite book. Always.
And what's a good piece of advice you've been given?
Have the best attitude in all situations. Works all the time. It keeps me positive.
Yeah.
I love it. Just always be, look at the best attitude everywhere, all the time.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It is so much fun to go back and talk about the 2023 shortlist, what it means to you, and to deep dive into the book. I mean, kids get to read these books and then don't always get to ask the questions they'd want to ask, and that's what we're hoping to do with Kids Book Buzz. So keep submitting questions. Thank you for being our fabulous guest. It's always a joy to talk to you, and I just think your story and how you go about your process is always wonderful for kids to hear. They get inspired. And to all listening, happy reading, exploring, and creating. And I'm sure we'll chat to you again soon with more wonderful work. Thanks, Frané.
Thank you, Kirsty. That was so much fun.